Can I tell you about this character, Solomon Love? A couple of you guys have asked me about it. What is Solomon Love? What is this book that you're writing? What is this movie, this film idea that you have? Where's all the stuff coming from? Well, it's coming out of my little head right here. And this is how the story goes. Once upon a time, during slavery, 1700s, there was a musician that played an African instrument. He was a musician, a storyteller. He was captured, brought to the Americas. He was enslaved, and he had a nice little relationship going on with a druid follower that was the slave master's daughter. Had a little mandingo thing going on there. He got caught and was beat to death. He was beaten, but not actually to death. He actually came to in the middle of the night during the full moon, realized that he wasn't tied up anymore, and ran. He ran as fast as he could, being dehydrated and bleeding, and unshackled into the swamps of South Carolina. He followed the lore that his mother told him, that if you look for the moss, it grows on the north side of the tree. You can go that way to freedom. It was a good fable. Everybody believed in it. After he got into the swamp, he realized that that was a myth, that moss grows everywhere. And unfortunately, he's starting to succumb to his injuries. He backed into a tree stump and was waiting to die, peaceful death, to finally be free. Right before he closed his eyes for the last time, he looked up and was staring at a huge beast that growled at him, and he thought, oh great, now I'm about to get eaten by a wolf, my final minutes of life. He came to, though, in a cave, being doctored by a beautiful woman, a little hairier than most, but beautiful nonetheless. He couldn't tell her origin. She looked Native American or Latina or African. He couldn't tell. She just was different. And she taught him how to survive out in the swamps. They had like an Adam and Eve time for a couple of weeks until the full moon. He changed and she changed, and he found out that he was now a supernatural being we call a werewolf. And he thought this was great. And they lived and played in the woods for a time until they heard the dogs from slave traders and trappers looking for runaways. And his anger was kindled, and he decided to go and get some payback for all that had happened. His new girl wasn't too keen on that, and he went off after them. Well, turn the page now, and it's now modern time. And he is sitting in a blues club, playing a little blues. And a reporter asked him, how about that song that you were singing? It's I never heard it before. And he said it's called Where the Moss Grows. Just took me back to a time back in the day. Gotta go, gotta go. So he leaves the club. It's early in the morning. He's walking out the back door, heading down the alleyway, and he sees a police officer roughing up a young kid that he knew from the neighborhood. And the cop was adamant that he was going to tell him or die. And Solomon stops and is watching, and he could smell the fear from this kid, and he knew the situation wasn't great. The next thing that happens, though, is the cop actually shoots point blank at this young kid in the head and kills him. Startled by the violence, the just raw anger and hatred, he drops his guitar, and the cop looks up, grabs his flashlight, does a good old cop fashion, and says, who's there? Please don't move. And Solomon realizes that he can't travel fast with this guitar, so he kind of leans it up against a trash dump, and he says, I'll come back for this. And he kind of has a Mighty Morphin moment. He's able to control the monster within him enough to just make his claws change, and he uses it to scale the side of the building and escape. But the cop now has an eyewitness to his murder, and now he has to hide while this cop is trying to find out who can snitch on him. He doesn't know that the person he's trying to catch is like 300-400-year-old monster that's been hiding in plain sight forever and a day. And that's the beginning of Where the Moss Grows, the very first book of my Solomon Love series. And there's some really cool characters in here that you've never seen before. The second book is Voodoo Child. Takes place in Louisiana. And there's some people who are trying to take Solomon's power from him and do some other crazy stuff. And there's a little Latin influence in the second book. And then the third book, which came out in 2018, is called Love Never Dies. And the mother of all werewolves, the one who changed him, is looking for him. And that one gets kind of erotic, and I'm learning this whole craft of writing, and I'm having a blast with it. You'll hear and see a whole bunch of elements of my life in this story. I'm not Solomon, but I'm just saying there's some elements of stuff that I've learned with music, with history, with myth, and kind of blend them all together, and it's a good time. I'm hoping that you would take a look at the Solomon Love series. They're on Amazon right now. You can find them at KennBlanchard.com. That's KennBlanchard.com. But the really cool part of all this story is that I'm working on a short film right now, and a fundraiser is beginning to put together a short that I can share with some folks that might be able to make it into a movie for you. So if you would like to help me, I'm looking for some help to get this thing going, and we would much appreciate it, what you do for me. More details to come, but until then, I got two requests for you. One, consider donating at least $50 to this project, and two, please buy a copy of any three of the Solomon stories, and let me know what you think. I'm your friend and your brother from another mother, Ken Blanchard, and thanks for watching.